Welcome to today's deep dive. Imagine for a second trading in Western democracy for a system called uh, parentism.
Right, or even sincerely believing that you have to spend your earthly life learning to breathe love
Yeah.
just so you don't literally asphyxiate in the afterlife.
It is wild. So today we are opening up a really fascinating time capsule of a source. It's an intriguing, super complex speech from January 1983.
Okay.
It was given by Reverend Sun Myung Moon to the Unification Church, and it's titled Universality and the Center Point of True Love.
Quite a title.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the theological and philosophical framework he presents here, because it's a worldview that attempts to connect the literal geometry of the human mind, the global politics of the 1980s, and, well, the mechanical rules of the afterlife.
All into one unified theory.
Exactly.
And, before we really jump in, we should probably establish some boundaries for how we're approaching this today. Because this source material, it contains highly specific religious viewpoints and some very politically charged claims regarding American history.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
Right. So our goal today isn't to endorse or validate or debate these views at all. We are simply here to impartially unpack the fascinating ideology contained within the text. We want you, the listener, to understand the speaker's internal logic and see exactly how he weaves these vastly different concepts together.
That context is totally vital, I think, because to understand this massive cosmic architecture he's building, we actually have to start incredibly small.
Right, at the individual level.
Yeah. The text doesn't begin with global politics or heaven. It starts with the definition of the individual human mind. The speaker lays down this foundational rule that unity always requires a core, a starting point.
Well, he argues that nothing in the universe functions without a center. I mean, a company requires a president to give it direction.
Yeah.
A physical body requires a mind to coordinate its actions. Without that central node, you just have chaos.
And he asks the audience to visualize this by picturing the human mind itself. He says it's invisible, obviously, but it's huge. And most importantly, it's perfectly round.
Like a sphere.
Right. He describes the mind as a circle encompassing a full 360 degrees. And he points out that every single person is born with this.
No matter who you are.
Exactly. Whether you're a cosmopolitan New Yorker or a farmer in a remote mountain village, you possess this expansive 360-degree mind. It's inherent to human nature.
But the text immediately introduces a tension here, right?
Don't you?
We all have this perfectly round mind, but our intentions and our actions, they move in completely different directions. The speaker compares these individual directions to the radii of a circle, like the lines drawn from the outer edge toward the center.
Okay, let's unpack this with an analogy. It's like the spokes on a bike wheel.
That's a great way to picture it.
Right, you have all these individual spokes coming from different angles around the outer rim, but for the wheel to bear weight and achieve what he calls unity, every single one of those spokes has to lock into the exact same central hub.
Yeah, they have to align perfectly.
If they don't, or if they just cross over each other at random intersections, the wheel collapses the second you sit on the bike.
And that captures the cosmic scale of his argument perfectly. True unity only happens when all the varying directions of billions of human minds pass flawlessly through the exact same center point of origin.
But wait, he takes this geometric concept of a 360-degree center
Yeah.
and applies it directly to real-world politics, which is where I'm going to need some help translating the logic.
Sure, yeah.
He claims that Western democracy is flawed because it's only 359 degrees. How does he make that mathematical leap? How does a political system lose a degree?
What's fascinating here is that he's measuring perfection through the lens of absolute permanence.
Permanence.
Yeah, the text contrasts human systems with the absolute laws of nature. In a democratic system, laws are temporal, they're always shifting.
True.
A policy enacted in one decade might be completely overturned in the next decade because the cultural majority just changed its mind.
So it's inconsistent.
Exactly. To the speaker, that temporal instability, the fact that human laws are subject to the whims of changing opinions, means democracy lacks absolute eternal consistency. Therefore, it falls short of perfect 360 degrees. It's close. Maybe it's 359 degrees.
But it's not 360.
No. And he contrasts this with absolute natural laws like chemistry,
Yeah.
or the unwavering orbits of the 9 planets in our solar system over 10 billion years.
Right. Gravity doesn't get voted out of office.
Exactly. Jupiter doesn't hold a referendum on its orbit. The natural law is absolute. The speaker is searching for a human system that possesses that same unchanging perfection.
Okay, so if human laws and democracy are imperfect hubs, only 359 degrees, what is the absolute 360-degree center point that the universe is supposed to revolve around?
Well, the source argues that the universal center point cannot be money, knowledge, or power.
And his reasoning for dismissing those is actually super clever. He points out that God, being the creator, could just manifest infinite money or knowledge at will. If you can create galaxies, a gold mine isn't really a big deal.
Right. If the creator has an endless, perfectly round mind, what does that creator actually want in the center of it?
Right.
The text argues the one thing God covets, the one thing a creator cannot simply force into existence by command, is true love.
Because it has to be a choice.
Yes. Love demands a free, voluntary response.
Yeah.
You can't mandate it. Therefore, voluntary true love is the ultimate, unchanging center point.
And he uses this really striking visual. He describes love as the thread. And all those 360-degree human minds we talked about are like pearls.
Oh, the string of pearls.
Yeah, the ultimate goal of the universe is to take this single thread of true love and string it directly through the center of billions of uniquely different human pearls, creating one cosmic masterpiece.
But, to actually string those pearls together, the text argues that individuals have to completely invert their default priorities.
Yeah, there's a big cultural contrast he makes here. He claims that traditionally Americans wake up thinking first of themselves, their schedule, their comfort, then maybe they consider their family, and then lastly, the world. But the ideal 360-degree mindset requires the exact opposite. You must think first of the world, then your clan, and lastly, yourself.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of the theology, it explains why that world-first mindset feels so unnatural to us now.
Why is that?
The speaker argues that if the original human family hadn't fallen, true love would have naturally expanded outward, from the family unit to the tribe to the nation, eventually eliminating all national boundaries entirely.
But the fall broke that.
Yes, the fall shattered the internal quality of love. Without that perfect center, human consciousness collapsed inward. Humanity expanded its external populations across the globe, sure, but internally we became stuck at these fractured, selfish levels.
Wow. And having established love as that theoretical center, the speech just aggressively shifts gears.
It really does.
It goes from abstract geometry right into how this cosmic ideology was actively playing out in the culture and politics of the 1980s.
And this is where the document serves as a really fascinating historical artifact. The speaker asserts that Western civilization is in decline and the East is ascending.
Oh, there was a great, really funny anecdote he shares about this cultural clash. He talks about the first American member of their church in Korea.
Oh, the floor story.
Yes. So there were no chairs in the building, just a cold concrete floor. The American tried to sit properly, but his legs hurt so badly he just gave up and lay down flat on his back right in the middle of the sermon.
It's a funny image, but he uses it to highlight the immense clash between Eastern manners and Western comfort. He tells his audience they are in a training course for true love. And part of that training is subordinating physical comfort for spiritual discipline.
And the critique gets a lot sharper than just sitting on floors. He draws a vivid historical contrast. He notes that white settlers took America with guns and physical force.
Right.
But he claims that Orientals will rehabilitate America's, quote, living corpses, meaning drug addicts and alcoholics, with love.
Rehabilitating the most broken elements of society serves as a proof of concept for his theology. If his movement can save the people that individualistic systems discarded, it proves the superiority of his true love.
And because the stakes are so cosmic, he makes incredibly audacious claims about his own influence on American politics. So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, how does this geometry dictate the 1980s?
Well, he claims his movement's spiritual fight directly altered massive U.S. political events.
Like Watergate.
Exactly. He asserts that he supported President Richard Nixon during the Watergate scandal, but not for partisan reasons. In this framework, the global spread of communism was the ultimate cosmic threat. So the Vietnam War wasn't just a proxy war, it was a frontline spiritual battle.
So keeping Nixon in power was a spiritual necessity.
Yes, to save Vietnam and preserve the cosmic balance. He also claims his movement actively fought against U.S. Congressman Donald Frazier, and that toppling him paved the way for Ronald Reagan's election.
It's just a staggering level of confidence. He is asserting that cosmic law dictates temporal events, even his own legal troubles. At the time, he was facing tax evasion charges. And he frames it not as a civil matter, but as a direct attack by evil forces trying to derail his cosmic mission.
And to explain how this earthly friction works, the text uses a really fascinating meteorological metaphor.
Oh, the weather analogy.
Yeah. It describes heaven as a high-pressure area, and it states that the place on earth that experiences the most intense persecution for goodness becomes a low-pressure area.
So his legal troubles, the societal pushback, even the cold concrete floors.
Yeah.
It's all intentionally endured to create a spiritual vacuum.
Yes, and basic meteorology tells us that when a massive high-pressure system meets a deep low-pressure system, air rushes in, creating a storm. The speaker believes enduring persecution creates a low-pressure void that pulls heaven down to earth, creating a massive storm of global unity.
But all this earthly training, the political maneuvering, the persecution, is not the end goal. The text makes it clear that this is all essentially preparation for the spirit world.
Right. Earthly life is just a temporary training vehicle. And the organizational structure you're supposed to master is what he calls parentism.
We touched on parentism earlier as his alternative to democracy. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
How does it function?
In the parentism model, a leader doesn't just issue commands. They assume ultimate moral and spiritual responsibility for their subordinates, just like a parent does for a child.
So the leader is a parent to the citizens, and God is the ultimate parent.
Exactly. And he argues that this specific parent-child dynamic is the exact operational standard used in the spirit world.
Which brings us to the mechanics of the afterlife, which are wild.
Yeah.
He says once you cross over, you don't need transportation. You can travel billions of light years just by thinking of a place. It's a realm governed exclusively by thought and love.
And here is where we get to the most visceral analogy in the entire speech.
Yes, here's where it gets really interesting. The speaker asks us to consider a baby developing inside a mother's womb. So the fetus is growing a nose, it's developing lungs, building all these faculties, but it's suspended in fluid. It doesn't use its lungs to breathe air in the womb.
Those organs serve absolutely no practical purpose in that fluid environment.
But if the baby fails to develop those lungs anyway, what happens? The moment it's born, the moment the umbilical cord is cut, it dies because it didn't prepare the necessary organs for the next reality. He applies this biological reality directly to our spiritual lives.
He synthesizes it beautifully. Just as a fetus develops lungs for an unseen environment of air, humans on Earth are living inside a spiritual womb.
A spiritual womb.
Yes. We have to use our time here to practice unconditional love, because in the spirit world, there is no physical air. You literally breathe love.
You breathe love. Wow.
Yeah, and if you spent your life only thinking of yourself, if you haven't mastered this true love through your family, your clan, and the world, you will arrive in the spirit world without spiritual lungs. The text warns that you will literally asphyxiate in the afterlife.
It's such a heavy image. You're essentially suffocating for eternity because you didn't do the reps in the gym of human relationships while you were alive.
It is a profound example of how this encompassing worldview attempts to leave absolutely no stone unturned.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today on this deep dive. From visualizing the mind as a 360-degree circle to the political claims of the 1980s, all the way to developing spiritual lungs to breathe love. Whether you find this theology inspiring or the politics baffling, examining these full constructed realities really forces us to look at our own lives. It makes you ask, what sits at the 360-degree center of my own mind?
And if we return to that powerful metaphor of the womb, it leaves you with a final lingering question. If our earthly lives are essentially an incubation period where we are developing organs for a totally different reality, what invisible muscle or sense are you unknowingly exercising every single day by the way you choose to live?
Definitely something to keep in mind the next time you take a deep breath. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.